I think a lot of firms have a desire to be that quarterback and drive the kind of comprehensive planning. But if you have 2, 3, 4, 500 clients as an advisor, it's impossible to do, right? You do one task and you move on to the next. We've really designed a relationship that is truly personal. The average advisor is working with somewhere between 40 to 50 clients, depending on the nature of those clients, and truly is coordinating all the resources.
Hey, everybody, welcome back to Next Mile. I'm your host, Kyle Van Pelt, co-founder at Milemarker. And today I am joined by Eric Kittner. Eric is the CEO and chairman of the board at Moneta, and he is also an aspiring meteorologist. That was a tough one to say, tougher than I thought. Eric, thanks for joining the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kyle. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. All right. Normally, I would jump straight into my first question for this, but we've got to double click on the aspiring meteorologist. That's not something you hear very often. So let's give you the floor. Let's talk about your passion for meteorology.
Yeah, growing up, I always had a passion of following the weather. And so as I progressed through my high school years and trying to figure out what I wanted to be in life, I really thought long and hard about going into meteorology. Most people ask me if I wanted to be the local weatherman, and not that there's anything wrong with that. But the answer was no. I really wanted to do mission critical work for the military or NASA. That was ultimately my desire. I saw the curriculum. I looked at it at Cornell University. My sister went to Ithaca right across the street. Ultimately decided that the curriculum was not for me, and so pivoted into communications and then eventually accounting.
Oh, man. Okay. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. What was it about the curriculum that you were like, no, this isn't for me?
As a 16, 17-year-old kid, it just looked really, really hard. Too much work. I was a baseball player. I was trying to, I would say, do as little hard thinking as possible at that age, and was really focused on baseball primarily. So it was baseball and then a little bit of school. So just wasn't for me.
I empathize as a fellow former baseball player who structured all of my coursework to not have to take anything above calculus and math. I picked whatever my path was to avoid hard math classes. So yeah. I'm with you, Eric. That's awesome. Okay. On to my traditional first question I ask everybody. I guess it's not the first question anymore, but on to this question. So I've had over 100 of these conversations, and I have found everybody has a unique path into our space and into our industry. Some people, they followed in traditional footsteps, family footsteps, or that, they knew this is what they wanted to do. Other people didn't even know this was a career, and they came in through the side door later in their life, figuring out that this was something to do later. But whether your path is traditional or untraditional, I found everybody has what we call a money moment. And that's a moment in your life where the light bulb kind of clicks on. You decide it's not meteorology, baseball's done, you did accounting, you kind of go, oh, this is it. I want to get into financial services. This is where I want to spend my career. So Eric, what was the money moment for you that led you to sitting in the chair you're in right now, having this conversation?
Yeah, it was interesting. I say I stumbled into the business, right? So I'd love to say there's this real creative story and thoughtful process and plan of how it happened. But the reality is I stumbled into the industry. And when I graduated college in 2000, I guess there was a CFP program at universities, but it wasn't prevalent. There weren't a lot of them. So to me, the CFP wasn't a title that I had aspired to. I went into accounting because my family was entrepreneurial. And I was an initial major in communications my freshman year. I came home after that year. My parents looked at me and said, well, what are you going to do with that? I honestly had no idea. Not that there's anything wrong with a communications major, just wasn't what I had from a long-term path perspective. So I switched into accounting. I'd taken some accounting classes in high school, switched to accounting, and ultimately determined that I loved it. Graduated, went to work for Arthur Andersen. And so I spent a couple years at Andersen in Tyson's Corner, Virginia, one of our larger offices, until the whole Enron issue. When I left, I moved to St. Louis because my wife is from here. And I really was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, what I wanted to be. Took a job with a local accounting firm here and started exploring all options. I really met the managing partner of the firm at the time via my mother-in-law who lived in his neighborhood. We started having conversations, and my money moment was really over those series of conversations. I discovered that my tax background, my desire to provide advice, and the fact that I could come to Moneta and own a business, they kind of all intersected. And I looked at this as an opportunity to really accomplish what I wanted to accomplish in owning a business. I didn't know it was going to be, a professional services business or a wealth management business, but ultimately the entrepreneurial spirit and the ownership structure of Moneta, I just kind of stumbled into and really
Man.
found, most importantly, I love the business. I love serving clients. I love helping our clients accomplish what they want to accomplish financially in their life. And so the intersection of being able to own a business and provide that advice was really, I guess, it wasn't one moment in time. It was kind of a series of discussions I had.
That's great. I love that. All right, I want to double click on some of the tax stuff. But before we get that, there's another thing I've noticed that seems to be a lot of either entrepreneurs or people who've launched. I feel like there is a common thread that they were at Arthur Andersen at some point in their career. Was there just like incredible training there? Or why does that seem to be a place that launched so many prolific careers and entrepreneurs and people who are doing very well now?
Yeah, it's interesting. I really, really enjoyed my experience there. It was unfortunate with what happened. I marched on Capitol Hill. It didn't work. So I think it had a very entrepreneurial environment. It was an amazing organization. The training and development they did, they owned a facility in St. Charles, Illinois. And I used to go there, or everyone used to go there for training at least annually. And so training and development was really a piece of the Andersen culture. Listen, there was a lot of talented people. There was what I call an ELE, extinction level events, which is pretty amazing for at the time what it was, an $8 billion revenue company, and pretty eye-opening for a young professional. And so at the end of the day, I think there was a lot of talented people that had this ELE in a triggering event that allowed them to say, hey, listen, I have an opportunity to go do something different if I want to. There were a lot that stayed in that world and went to the ENYs or PwCs based on their practice group. But there was a lot of folks who decided that, hey, this is my opportunity. I don't know if there's been a book written yet, but there should be, of all of the successful businesses from the fallout of Andersen and Enron.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, everybody talks about the PayPal mafia or, a lot of these things where people were together and they go. And I guess that's kind of what I was getting at is I feel like there's got to be an Arthur Andersen contingent that has really built some very meaningful stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. So I just spoke on a panel at WashU last week. And after the panel and the story of Enron came up, and there was a woman in the group and the crowd that came up afterwards, and Andersen alumni, right? And so very, very powerful. People loved it. I've yet to find somebody who has anything bad to say about Andersen or their Andersen experience. So I thought it was a fantastic organization. I was very, very lucky to have a couple of years there. And again, pretty interesting how it all played out and very formative for me as I think about decisions on a daily basis. And, bad things can happen in business.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so you leave there and then you, like you said, a couple of stops, mostly tax related, but then you end up here at Moneta. How much is tax intertwined to what Moneta is doing in the way that you approach clients?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at our comprehensive service model, it's a huge piece of everything, right? So when I entered the business, I realized pretty quickly my skill set in tax, and I was using it in an accounting firm. It was very much after the fact. It wasn't proactive, and it was all tax. When I came to Moneta, I realized that there's so many pieces to a financial plan that need to be coordinated. Oftentimes clients would come in and they've got a great tax person, they've got a great insurance person, they've got a great investment person perhaps, but nobody really putting together kind of the comprehensive plan and managing all those pieces. When you look at the tax overlay, it impacts just about everything, right? So a very, very critical piece to what we do. And nobody likes to pay taxes. So to the extent we can minimize, defer, kick it down the road as long as possible, a very important piece.
So I love that you brought up the comprehensive service model of Moneta. It seems to me that a lot of the fastest growing firms in our industry have adopted that. But to me, it seems like it's an easier said than done thing. Like, oh, we're just going to, we're going to bring these things together. We're going to try and be a quarterback in a one-stop shop and it's going to be awesome. How did you guys nail that operationally and structurally inside the company to where you're so successful with it? Because I think there's a lot of people who'd love to do it. But like I said, it's just much easier on paper or on the spreadsheet than it is actually in practice with real humans, real households, real clients.
I think one thing is really hiring the right people, right? So this is a pretty simple business to understand. Great people leads to great clients, right? We're not manufacturing a product with inputs coming from across the globe, dealing with all kinds of labor or tariff issues. It's really a service. And if you have great people, you're going to have great clients and great relationships. So listen, the founding partners ultimately decided to transition from a transactional business into a truly wealth management component. We've hired a significant number of entrepreneurial individuals and technicians to orchestrate that. And I think what Moneta has done really, really well is to keep that advisor to client ratio very, very low. So I think a lot of firms have a desire to be that quarterback and drive the kind of comprehensive planning. But if you have 2, 3, 4, 500 clients as an advisor, it's impossible to do, right? You do one task and you move on to the next. We've really designed a relationship that is truly personal. The average advisor is working with somewhere between 40 to 50 clients, depending on the nature of those clients, and truly is coordinating all the resources. The other thing we've done is we have expertise from estate and tax and insurance and those kinds of things in-house, but we don't prepare returns. We don't prepare legal documents. We are really partnering with the experts in the outside world in those areas. We have 9,000 clients, give or take, across the country that are highly successful. They have unique needs. We find the unique partners rather than have to do it all ourselves. We've been very intentional about doing what we do really well and being that quarterback and providing that advice and coordinating the resources. But we also don't feel like we have to do it all in-house. Very, very intentional about that.
Well said. All right. Let's talk further about the model. So I think one thing that's really unique is you all have purposefully not taken on private equity or outside capital to fund your growth, or like a lot of other peers of yours in the industry have. What's the reasoning behind that?
Yeah, the primary focus is really to ensure that we really have two constituents that we have to answer to, our clients and our people, right? And we've gone down a path that we believe being truly independent and avoiding outside capital allows us to focus on those two groups. And so, listen, I think there's a lot of reasons private equity has come into the world. That business is really attractive. Relationships are sticky. Margins are attractive. So we get it. There's also a significant need for succession planning, because if you look at the typical advisor doesn't wake up thinking they need to spend a significant chunk of their day figuring out how they're going to transition this business over the next 5, 10, 15 years. So, private equity came in because the business is attractive and there was a need. There is another way to transact the business internally. There's a way to thoughtfully and intentionally over an extended period of time develop next gen owners and transition that business. And that's our focus, right? At the end of the day, we believe we have enough partner capital to invest in the business model to serve clients and to ensure that our group of talented individuals have the paths that they want. And some of those are ownership. And that's just our model. There's nothing wrong with the outside capital world. We just believe that it truly, truly allows us to say that we can serve our clients and our people, unlike other firms who have some third party that they have to answer to. And at the end of the day, we make business decisions because we believe it's the best decision for our clients. I don't have to go tell a third party, hey, listen, we're in the trust business. It's not a great business, but we need to be in it because our clients need it and they've asked us for a solution. So it's just the path that we're part of.
I want to pivot and talk to you about the state of Colorado. And I know that might feel like a little bit out of left field,
Okay.
but we just saw you guys did your third deal in the state of Colorado where you brought on another office since 2019. And I think that makes 3 or 4 offices in Colorado for you alone. A lot of times when we look at how people are growing through either succession or whatever, they might try and find a gap in the market where they're not at or where they want to get a presence and they try to go fill that gap. But you seem to be going deep in specific markets, and Colorado is the example that I found in the notes. So I'm curious, what's the advantage of going really deep in a place versus trying to find holes and fill them up with opportunities?
Yeah, no, great question. We ended up going to Colorado. It was our first expansion. I could tell you all about our first, 12 months of attempted M&A. We planted a flag in 2019 in Denver without any transactions actually on the books. Just said, if you build it, they will come. And not ego, just literally was put in office there because it is a market that is growing. It's a fairly fragmented RIA space. And so we already had clients there. We had probably about 500 million of assets there, just nobody present. So planted the flag. It's led to 4 deals in that marketplace. We've opened 3 offices, Boulder, Cherry Creek, the tech center. We also realized going into that market that Boulder is different than Cherry Creek, which is different than South End Tech Center, which is different than the Front Range. So getting to know that market, the reality is we said strategically when we go to a market, we want to be the firm in the market. Again, not ego, but because for 2 reasons. One, brands and attracting clients, right? We want the brand in that market to resonate with prospective clients, successful individuals looking for comprehensive advice. And 2, we want that brand to resonate in the marketplace for talent, right? So putting somebody in a one-off office in downtown Denver was not our strategic business plan because it doesn't help accomplish those 2 things. It doesn't help attract clients or talent. So we really want to go in the market, build that brand, build that talent pool, build that recognition with the prospective clients, who we are, what we do, and who we serve, so that those business owners operating in that market feel the value of the brand. It's not just a suite of services and back and middle office and the partnership and all the other things. It's really a brand that resonates for them on a local stage.
I love that. I love that. What are the characteristics of a firm that would fit the brand you just talked about? So, hey, maybe I'm in Colorado, maybe I'm in a different place, but I like what you're talking about. What are the types of things about a firm that, they would want to come and join Moneta?
Yeah, good question. When you look at the RIA universe, there's a lot of different flavors out there, a lot of different advisors. They need to be comprehensive in their financial planning advice, right? They're not kind of closet asset management. They're really comprehensive. They need to be fee only. They need to work with high net worth, ultra high net worth. They want to build something bigger than themselves, and they're interested in an internal succession plan like the rest of the partnership. So when you look at that universe of RIAs out there, you can get to a pretty tight number in a fairly short period of time based on those criteria. From a transaction standpoint, our goal is to do a couple, 3, 4 a year of really good, talented teams with the same culture. And to us, culture is not a mythical figure. We learned from some cultural visioning we did in 16 and 17 for Barry Waymiller. Culture is the sum total of your behavior on a day-to-day basis. So are these firms doing exactly the same thing we are doing, the way they think about their people, the way they think about their clients? So those criteria you can boil down to a small set of advisors, and then they have to be interested in doing a transaction, right? They have to find a need or they have to find value in Moneta. And we don't view this as a one-way street, right? We don't view a firm that merges with us as Moneta's providing them all the value. We are great at stealing the best ideas. So firms come to us with things that we're not doing. Great, we'll adopt that strategy, that technology, whatever the case may be, and incorporate it in the larger partnership so we're all better together.
I love that. And then it sounds like you are trying to concentrate geographically in certain areas. Is Moneta mostly an in-office culture? Are you guys remote, combination? What's the strategy there?
Yeah, I would say so. It's a combination of, right? I think that people are grown-ups and have to decide what's best for them. I joke, if you're out developing business, there's no prospects, on the elevator at Moneta when you get in. So there's a natural need to be out of the office, seeing clients, seeing prospects. I would say we tend to lean much more to the in-office side of things. Our clients tend to like to spend time in our offices. That said, I would say COVID was a very unique experience, right, for a lot of us, all of us. And from a client perspective, we've seen a significant adoption of clients who are completely comfortable and actually prefer a Zoom style setting. So whether that Zoom is with me sitting in this office or whether it's with me sitting in my house, talking to a client, I think the client drives that ship, right? We want to meet the client where they are. And so that shift has caused people to think about their day and where they reside, whether it's in office. I would say our leadership team, they're here. We're very much be in the office for a significant period of time as a leadership team because that's how we're going to develop people. I think one of the things that gets lost, and I see it, and we saw it when we were out of the office because we had with COVID, when you have a client meeting, whether it's a Zoom or in person, the collaboration that happens immediately thereafter is different when everybody's in the office versus calling 3 people, getting them back up on Zoom and say, okay, let's do it deeper. It's just different. And so I may be a little bit old school that I think a lot of that development of talent happens in the kind of the post meeting, the end of the day, the morning as you're getting your coffee, those kinds of things. And that's hard to replicate virtually.
I'm glad you brought that up. That's one of the reasons I asked about the in-office culture is, I've seen a bunch of stuff going back and forth and reading about how entry level team members, next gen talent, things like that might be worse off from a development standpoint right now with such a remote working culture, even if it is a little bit more flexible. And it sounds like you were even just hitting on that a little bit more too. And I know you're pretty passionate about next gen. You're passionate about developing people who can be the next leaders in the succession plan and the way they're going to serve clients and everything like that. So it sounds like your team, hey, development happens more in the office, and it's better for your career if you're younger or you're more junior to be in an office location with people who desire to develop you.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's the balance of having that flexibility, yet acknowledging that, that development is, I won't say off hours, but it is a lot of times not the scheduled curriculum, it's just that time between. So yeah, again, I think from a developing next gen talent, being around it, we really, for the most part, suggest for an extended period of time when you're in the office to develop that initial skill set or base. And let's be honest, not everyone's good working from home. I personally do not love to wake up, walk from my bedroom to my home office and spend the day and kind of exit that. I need that little bit of separation for me. And so I'm candidly way more productive for the most parts when I'm in the office. And I don't think I'm alone in that setting. I also think from a leadership perspective, and you've seen some of the large companies and even some of the tech companies that are traditionally a little more open to these kinds of things, pushing people back to the office. I've joked there will be a McKinsey study that doesn't need to be done that will highlight productivity or performance, and there will be a correlation to people spending time together more often than not, whether that's in an office in a traditional sense or just being together. I think it will play out that productivity and performance is driven by that connection.
Yeah, well said. I actually really like your point about the kind of off schedule or off curriculum interactions versus the on, because we can all show up and our calendar can be full of a bunch of productive stuff, client meetings, prospect meetings, all of these productive things that are happening during the day. And that's great. And you show up and you run all of those things. But a lot of times it is those interactions between, or it's those moments where you get developed and you get to learn and you get to have those opportunities. So that's a really good call out. I think that's insightful.
Yeah. I mean, there's the comment, my son's a hockey guy. He's kind of chasing his hockey dream. He'd ultimately love to play D1 hockey, and he's living on the East Coast. And there's the book. Oh, I can't think of the title. It'll come to me, but it talks about 10,000 hours and being an expert. Yep. And it talks about the NHL. And if you look at the NHL, most of the birth months were January, February, March for a lot of NHL players, more consistently than the back half of the year for the calendar. And the reality is, as young individuals, they tended to be better because the January birth date versus December, when you're 6 or 7, there's a big difference, right? From a skill set, development, coaching would naturally steer to the better players so they get more. And that would go kind of correlate through their career. So when you get to the NHL, there was a lot of early birth month players in the NHL relative to the back end. I think that's changed a little bit if you look at the NHL today. That said, it's a little bit like those who are in the office. It's easier to develop. Frankly, they may get more attention, right? So when I walk out of my office and there's a group of people here and you're going to have that interaction, it's easier to develop and have those conversations. Where if you're not sitting here on a consistent basis, they may not happen. I think you'll see that development track change.
Yeah, that's a great point. By the way, a point from one of my favorite books. So that's Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell.
Yep. Couldn't think of it. Sorry.
No, all good. But it's a terrific point, and I love the correlation back to, hey, the coaching, the in-person, the development that happens there. It's those little micro interactions rather than did you show up to practice and take 100 shots on net or something? Like, yeah, most people are doing that. What gives you the edge? It's those micro moments. It's the little bit of extra. It's the, those types of things. And I think that's really, really insightful.
Yeah. I mean, you can just observe when we do our in-person, we do partner collaboration sessions, training sessions across all avenues of the firm. And when you do that in person and it ends, you can just see the interaction that's happening post meeting. That's all because they're sitting there together, right? Does that happen on Zoom or Teams? No. So I love to watch that interaction, those communications, and we know it leads to productive things.
Yeah, I love it. All right, we've talked a lot about developing talent. I want to ask you about another big thing that I actually don't think comes up enough, because a lot of people are talking about next gen. How do we develop the next gen? But I feel like there's an opportunity a lot of times between, do we bring on established talent, right? Talent that's already been developed because we really have a need for that, versus getting somebody and trying to develop them. And the seat you're in, how do you make that distinction? How do you look at something and go, we really need to go get someone who's already done it, who's seen the movie before, right? And that we can rely on from day one, versus, no, it's okay to bring this person in and bring them along and develop them the Moneta way?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the reality is we really focus on both. And instead of focusing only on the unicorn of, well-established, they can walk in, call it a plug and play advisor or operations manager, whatever the case may be, we recruit that, right? And find it. But the other avenue is to develop homegrown at the same time, right? So you have to do both. It's a little bit like growth in general. You can't focus just on organic and you can't focus just on M&A. You do both at the same time. I think that's the path of Moneta. There are times where that established individual is needed. There are times where that talent is looking for a new role. So there's a good match. Meantime, we have an internship program. We hire new recent college graduates and really grow them internally as well. And I think both are important. There's challenges to both. The assumption that I go hire an advisor, I plug them in, and the next day they're operating full speed is false, right? Culture is different for the firms, technology solutions, and then frankly, client relationship. I can't expedite my transition of trust to that advisor any faster, whether they come from the outside world or whether they're homegrown, right? So at the end of the day, there's a natural period of time where that relationship with the client has to develop. So if I bring in a 15-year senior advisor and inject him or her into the relationship, they still don't know the client. The client still doesn't have the trusting confidence that they have in me or another advisor they've been working with for 15 years. So there's a natural period of time to transition that relationship or ensure that that individual is accretive to the relationship by the client reaching out and asking for advice. I always say I don't make an advisor. A title doesn't matter. When a client calls you and asks you a challenging question, that's when you know you're their advisor, right? The title on your business card is what it is. Ultimately, this is a very personal relationship with a successful family or a client. When they reach out to you, that's when you are their advisor.
I feel like that should be the title of your book. Funny enough, the title doesn't make you an advisor, right? You become an advisor when the client asks you for something meaningful, right? Not just because you get a meeting, not just because you get a review meeting, not just because your business card says that, right? When do they actually call and start asking you for your opinion and your advice on a situation in their life that matters?
Yep. Agreed.
That's great, man.
This podcast is brought to you by Turncast. We make game-changing content for fintech and financial services companies. Learn more at turncast.com.
Hey, Next Mile listeners, Jessica here from Milemarker. We talk a lot about reaching that next mile in your business journey, but let's be for real for just a sec. If you're an advisor, how much time are you spending wrestling with data instead of actually advising your clients? I've worked firsthand with tons of advisors over the years, helping them achieve real success and breakthrough growth. But I keep seeing the same roadblock everywhere. Brilliant advisors stuck spending hours pulling reports from their different systems, trying to create meaningful client presentations and struggling to get a clear picture of their firm's growth. Does this sound familiar? Here's what I've learned. The advisors who are scaling and growing aren't necessarily smarter. They've just figured out how to get control over their data. That's exactly why I joined Milemarker, because they've built a solution that changes everything for how you manage and grow your firm. At Milemarker, we specialize in 3 game-changing areas for firms like yours: streamlining your data management so all your systems talk to each other, automating those repetitive reporting tasks that eat up your valuable time, and creating seamless advisor and client experiences that actually help you grow your firm The difference is night and day. Instead of spending your evenings pulling together client reports, imagine having that data automatically organized and presented exactly how you need it. Instead of guessing about your firm's performance, imagine having real-time insights that help you make strategic decisions. If you are ready to stop being held back by your data and start using it to fuel your growth, I'd love to have a conversation with you. We're offering Next Mile listeners a complimentary consultation to explore exactly how we can help you transform your advisory practice. Don't let outdated processes keep you from reaching that next mile in your firm's growth. Visit milemarker.co and mention the Next Mile podcast, and I'll personally make sure to get the insights you need to take control of your data and scale your practice. Because your time should be spent building your business, not buried in spreadsheets.
Okay. So Milemarker is a technology company. I love to talk to folks like you about technology and how you're using tech to grow Moneta. Obviously, you've got all kinds of different things that you're using right now, but just as you're growing the firm, as you're looking at things, how are you thinking about technology and its support method for your growth?
Yeah, so interesting. I mean, I've been in the business now 21, 22 years, right? So going back to the old days and putting together a financial review and really showing clients and a big value add was, this is where what you have and this is where it sits, right? It's kind of the holdings. Obviously, there's so much technology and advancement that's changed the value prop of what that review meeting drives and what it does. There was always goals and objective based, but clients found a lot of value in seeing kind of the reporting aspect. They can see all that on a daily basis, on a minute by minute. And so I think continue to drive what is the value prop of Moneta and what our clients feel. From a technology standpoint, listen, I think there's a lot of advisors out there chasing the big shiny object to make lives easier, to create productivity and all those things. And I think that's important. We think about it from the perspective of how do we implement technology solutions so that our advisors, our client service managers, our partners have more time to spend with clients. Really that value add, that personal human connection. That's what drives our technology decisions, right? Can I enhance the experience for the client? Can I enhance the experience for the advisor? And if I'm enhancing it for the advisor, what I really mean is I'm creating more time for them to spend with the families that they're serving. That's number one. That's the most important. That said, not getting too distracted, not getting too disruptive to the advisor experience and the client experience, right? So we will continue to evolve our tech stack, but we also want to make sure if we're doing something and making a change that we understand the real repercussions to the end client experience and to the advisor experience and the true cost of doing so. So very thoughtfully thinking through what technology solutions, what changes are we going to make in that lens so that we don't find ourselves making change and chasing something with the hope that, but being very intentional. And we're okay, I say this, being a little bit behind. We don't have to be okay, let's go impact our client experience, realize that was a negative experience and step back. If it takes us an extra 6 to 12 months to get there, I'm okay with that, to ensure that that client experience and that advisor experience is a net positive versus feeling disruptive. So I think AI is in a space I'm sure that everybody's trying to figure out. I think in the advisory world, how do we leverage AI to, again, give advisors more time to spend with families, more time to spend with clients where we can drive deep value. So there's a lot of things we're looking at, but again, I would say we're very intentional about the moves that we make.
Yeah. What do you think, just from an overall industry perspective, is the biggest drag on advisor experience when it comes to technology right now? So I love that you're saying, hey, we don't want to be disruptive to it just to try and chase the shiny object or things like that. But there's probably still something lacking or leaving something to be desired. So where do you think the drag is on creating a positive advisor experience?
Yeah, I mean, I think the connectivity to everything in one stop, right? So as an advisor, when I come in for the day and I open up my computer and my apps and my programs and my tech stack, is it all housed in the same spot and does it talk to each other? Do I have to go to multiple different places in a series of clicks to get to what I need to do in order to provide the information for the client that I'm serving, right? Is there that kind of one-stop shop from an advisor experience? I think that's what everybody's chasing, the integration across technologies so that it's seamless from an advisor experience. And I'm minimizing my time and maximizing the amount of time I've got what I need so that I can spend time with my clients. I think that's the holy grail, is that advisor experience where it's a very integrated solution in sales. Your CRM's talking to your planning, talking to your reporting, talking to your custodial, talking to your trading, all of those things in kind of one click. So
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think the interesting thing that happens with that too is you have this like the grass is green where you water it issue combined with the advisor experience issue you just talked about, because a lot of what you need for that advisor experience issue that you talked about comes from tools that are not used by advisors. And you don't want to take all of those out to try and create some sort of perfect nirvana. So it's like you need something that sits on top of all of these tools that the rest of the firm's using, the client service team, the ops team, the trading team, all of these, because they might be really good at certain tools. But then advisors need something that's like, hey, give me all of the relevant information and insights from all of those things you're using and pull them up into something that, allows me to be efficient in my interactions with clients, right?
Absolutely. And I think anytime you implement something new, you've got to train on it, right? And so the last thing we want is tools and technology that people don't know how to use. So when you think about an organizational standpoint, and it's 500 to 600 people that need that training and development, there's a real cost there. There's time, there's energy. And if you have a user that's sitting over here that's a super user, and then you have somebody sitting over here that doesn't even really know what it does, whatever it is, that's a problem at an organizational level, right? So the training and development and making sure that everybody is really utilizing the capability of those solutions is equally important to finding those great solutions.
Yeah. I love it. All right. I can talk to you about this all day, but I want to move on to the next portion of this, which is technology related, but industry related as a whole, which is I'm going to ask you to get out your crystal ball, look into the future a little bit, and tell me what are some of the things you're trying to prepare Moneta for right now that are going to happen 3 to 5 years from now?
Yeah, I mean, the crystal ball is, I don't know if this is crystal ball. My comment would be large firms are really, really gaining resources, right? So I think there's this whole model of growth and aggregators and institutions that are bringing in great talented firms and aggregating. But there's also this arms race from a service perspective and technology perspective, maybe more of the back and middle office. So whether it's accounting services, whether it's legal services, whether it's valuation services, bill pay, bookkeeping, family office, I think what we're seeing is really large firms build very deep benches in those offerings that are going to allow those advisors at those firms to better serve clients and win more. So I call it kind of the arms race of services, not just going to look for advisors, but really, really building institutional service offerings for those advisors who are operating on that platform. So I think that's going to continue. I continue to believe the RIA model is going to continue to win. I think the consumer has identified that it works really well. I think the RIAs that you look at there that are institutional in nature are building tremendous resources. It's not just about attracting firms to join them. It's really about building the resources that they need to provide those advice to clients. There will be, in my opinion, at some point, a public company that where the public markets will value the firm more closely to how the private markets do today versus an asset manager or bank. I think what'll be interesting too, I think you're going to see fallout from large firms. I think you're going to see firms that will spawn out of large firms, whether it's a disgruntled transaction, whether it's a disgruntled next gen. There will always be a need in this space for that smaller operator, in my opinion. And so I think you'll see some firms that will be driven from large firms, and talent will ultimately exit. We saw it in the accounting world, right? At Anderson, smaller public accounting firms developed out of large firms. I think, going forward, this isn't really a crystal ball, or I think that anything groundbreaking, but our belief and opinion is the need for personal human connection is only going to grow.
Yeah.
If you think about what we're seeing in the marketplace, whether it's the advisor world or life in general, it's really hard to find that human connection, that personal human connection. I challenge people to think about the service providers in their life and who could they call and really have a meaningful, deep conversation with. Who is a service provider? Maybe it's your CPA, Maybe it's your estate planning attorney. There are inevitably some folks, but if you think about calling somebody and having that human connection, which is so hard to find, I think maintaining that and adding all of the efficiencies and scales that we can and scale that we can in the back and middle office, great. But never losing sight of that personal human connection, I think is what will separate us in the future. In other words, doing the same thing we're doing today, and it continues to become more rare.
Man, that was jam-packed with a whole bunch of really interesting stuff. I want to double click on a lot of it. I don't know if we'll have a ton of time today, but one that I really want to ask you about. So I love the insight of, hey, bigger firms are getting more resources and they're developing deeper benches and they have all kinds of things to serve people. I'm going to take a little bit of a left turn and ask you about this because you said, hey, the market is really understanding and appreciating RIAs, all of that type of stuff. But I can't help but wonder about firms like LPL, for example, who, they're positioning themselves as we're independent, right? We are serving basically a similar RIA model out to clients, right? And they're scooping up Commonwealth. They're scooping up all kinds of things. They're developing massive, massive amounts of resources and all of that type of thing. So I know it's not apples to apples, but when you look at what you were just talking about, how do you think the client perceives a brand like a Moneta or even some of the really, really large RIAs you were talking about, a Creative Planning, a Fisher or something like that versus an LPL? To them, is it one and the same? Or, do you think that there is a true differentiation when those conversations are being had?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a true differentiation. And listen, the LPL platform serves a massive number of advisors. I don't know or remember the number, but I mean, tens of thousands, right? So I think when it comes down to it and you think about the end client, listen, there's a lot of different RIA flavors out there or advisor flavors because there's a lot of different clients.
Yeah, good point.
$1,000 client looking for some basic planning and asset allocation is different than a $20 million client looking for a deep, comprehensive relationship, all-inclusive, comprehensive, unbiased, fee only, those kinds of things, right? So when you look at the world of clients out there and the different flavors, that's driving the different flavors of firms, right? And so I think about the end firm in the structure. It really starts with who are you trying to serve and what are you trying to provide them? And again, we're not designed to serve a $200,000 mass affluent who's looking for some cash flow or retirement planning advice. There's nothing wrong with that business. It's just not our business.
Right.
So our platform and our business decisions are going to look different in terms of the infrastructure we build in order to serve the clients that we're serving relative to some of those others.
Yeah, well said. So, it's the same thing as not every auto body shop is meant to serve every type of car, right? Some people are specifically for German brands of cars and others are, hey, general auto body shop. And I love what you're saying, which is, yeah, we're developing a deep bench of resources. Other people are too, but we're also still trying to tailor our development, our services, our infrastructure to a specific type of client. And we don't have to be all things to all people, even as we get bigger and bigger.
Yeah, our goal is to serve a very select group of clients. And again, I'll go back to, I think where Moneta has been very intentional is focused on what we're good at and who we serve. And again, there are firms that will serve kind of all aspects. I think if you look at our business, we've been in the business for 40 plus years as an RIA. Our clients are successful, they're willing to delegate, and they're serious about their goals. They're all in different stages of their wealth creation life cycle, maybe on the front end, early earners, to the back end and liquidity events in the family office model, and literally everything in between. But those characteristics apply to all of our families. Again, there's an LPL, there's other shops out there that can provide a lot of different services for a lot of different clients. And advisors need to find the right firm for them, for the clients that they want to attract and serve. And so that's why I think that the industry will have a lot of different flavors forever.
Yeah. Man, Eric, this has been a fun conversation. We are going to move into the final segment of the show, which is what we call the Milemarker Minute. It's a series of lightning round questions aimed to get to know you a little bit better outside of the firm. So are you ready for the Milemarker Minute?
Let's go.
All right. If you could travel anywhere in the world you've never been to before, where would you travel?
Yeah, Japan is number one on my list. My daughter's going there for a school trip in a couple of months, and I'm incredibly jealous.
Oh, that's awesome. All right. Are you a mountains person or a beach person?
I am a mountains person. I am in Colorado quite a bit when I can.
I love it. All right. As a fellow baseball person, are the Dodgers ruining baseball right now?
Well, so I'm an old school. When we realigned and we did an early play, I kind of lost interest in baseball. I believed in the pennant race. I believe that the American and National League should not play each other until the World Series. So I don't follow baseball quite like I did.
Yeah. You're saying baseball was already ruined before. It had nothing to do with the Dodgers.
Agreed. Well said.
What's the best flavor of ice cream?
Oh, boy. According to my kids, it's mint chocolate chip, but I would tell you it's some sort of peanut butter cup flavored mixture. Anything with peanut butter.
Yes, I love it. I'm with you. All right. So our firm Milemarker was named that way because mile markers are a symbol of progress, and we believe that progress never stops. What does progress mean to you?
Yeah, progress to us is continuing to grow the number of client relationships that we serve and develop talent in next gen ownership and really have internal succession. So our best KPI is the clients that we serve, right? Which is if it's a growing number, clients, existing clients and new clients are finding value in what we're doing. And if it's not, we've clearly got a service model perspective or problem.
I love it. I love it. All right, now I'm going to double click. What does progress mean to Eric?
Oh, progress means to me from a personal level or from a firm level?
Yeah, personal level. Like when you look a year in the future and you're like, I made progress. Like what would you look back and say, oh, that's how I know I did that?
Yeah, from a personal level, my kids are getting a little bit older and I'm trying to figure out so much time and attention raising, 3 kids. Well, I have one that will be entering college hopefully next year and a couple that are a couple years thereafter. Like, how do I develop hobbies and things beyond raising kids and working, right? So what do I do? So for me, making some progress along some of my more personal hobbies and figure out what I really like to do on a daily basis. If I'm not working or raising kids or spending time with my wife, that's kind of, in the next year, if I've got a better list or better handle on that, to me, that would be progress.
I love that answer. That's awesome. What's the best book you've read or listened to in the past year?
Yeah, I don't listen to books. I just, for whatever reason, can't. I like Simon Sinek, Winning the Loser's Game.
All right. I love it. I love it. Okay. And last question for you. There is an alternate universe. And in this alternate universe, Eric does not do anything related to financial services. So in that alternate universe, what is your career?
Boy, I could really see myself as a coach, teacher/coach. I think that's a little bit of the why I'm in the path, or I've had the path I have, is I like development. I had a fantastic mentor when I entered the business, and I very much appreciated that, but I really enjoy teaching and coaching, so I could see myself in that world.
I love it. Eric, you made it through the Milemarker Minute. Congratulations, man. This is a really fun conversation, jam-packed with insights. And I'm thankful for you coming on the show and sharing it with our audience and with me.
Yeah, Kyle, I appreciate it. I had a great time. I actually referenced the wrong book. I would say it's Leaders Eat Last. Sorry, I don't know where I came up with that title, but Leaders Eat Last. So I apologize.
No,
but I had an awesome time today. Love the conversation. Love the podcast. I've listened to a bunch of them now in the last couple of weeks and I've enjoyed all of them.
Yeah, thanks, man. I really appreciate that. And thank you for the book recommendation. All the best to you and congrats on all the growth that you guys have had thus far. But I know there's a lot more to come.
All right. Thanks, Kyle. Appreciate it.
All right, everybody. That's been another episode of Next Mile. Please make sure you click follow or subscribe wherever you're paying attention to this. And if you'd be kind enough, leave us a review so people who've never found the show can find a conversation like I just had with Eric. But until the next one, enjoy every mile.